Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have just returned from closed session where we discussed public employee discipline dismissal, public employee appointment of chief business official, conference with labor negotiations, NTA and CSEA, conference with labor negotiator, unrepresented supervisors and contracted management, conference with labor negotiator, unrepresented employee superintendent, employee performance evaluation title superintendent, and conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. No action was taken. Next, I would call on approval of the agenda, but I understand there are several items that are going to be pulled.
I would like to pull an item, if I may.
Sure.
I'd like to pull item 12.14. We're going to try a different approach on that.
And there is an item regarding the CBOC that I'm having trouble pulling up. There, I've got it now. I would like to pull item 12.6. CBOC member reappointment will not be happening tonight. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Those adjustments, I move acceptance of the agenda approval.
Second.
Okay. Please vote.
I need to get myself in here. Sorry about that.
Four ayes. Thank you. Next, it is my pleasure to ask the superintendent to call on the student report.
Oh, great. So let's start with Newark Memorial High School. We usually make you go last, but.
Yeah. Well, let's see. School starts just this Thursday. Summer went by super, super fast. I'm sure all of you felt that. As for senior year, it's crazy because I've been planning this since like 3rd grade. And I'm already filled out all my applications. I'm applying for early action this coming November, and I've had some interviews, so I'm super excited. I know a lot of my seniors are also doing that, but just in case, throughout the year, I'll be giving a lot of updates and workshops for my seniors to make sure they take their SATs, make sure they apply within the deadlines they believe, and definitely make sure to apply to FAFSA, which opens October 1st, and it's better to apply super early because then you get more scholarships. So throughout the year, I will be holding workshops with my ASB representatives for that specifically. And then this year, I'm also taking the Ohlone Connections course. So this was something that I feel has been severely overlooked at the high school. And when I looked into it and researched it a lot more, I found out that there's actually so many benefits. I am able to take the college course classes at Ohlone during the school year. And so I'm taking statistics instead of in one whole year, I'm taking it just in a semester at the college, and then it is transferable to any college I choose. I already talked to the colleges I'm applying to. And then I'm able to have a lot of lenient time and get a real intro to what college classes are like. So it's like an extra year of college my senior year. So I'm super excited about that. And then lastly, we are having a new student board member, that will be starting this year. I'll be training him along with Superintendent Sanchez. And I'm super excited to introduce him. He's going to introduce himself a little bit here. So why don't you come up?
Hello, everyone. My name is Cesar Castillo. I'm happy to sit on the board this year with you guys. I'm an incoming junior at Newark Memorial, taking a bunch of AP classes. My goal for the board is to bridge the gap between the board and the student's population. I feel like there's a huge disconnect and students kind of distrust the board. So I want to make sure that we bridge that gap and make sure that the students are represented and that the board is more trusted within the student population.
Great.
Great, thank you.
I had a quick question. Well, both of you. You mentioned at one time having 2.
Yeah.
So is that
So this is going to be configured a little bit more because when I first took this position, what I'm doing now isn't what I was originally doing. And as we move forward, we're going to figure out how I am the only representative for all the schools. Like in Newark, it's kind of hard for me to touch base on everything and get more of a dynamic, more diverse, just what I say. And I feel like it would be better if we have both a male and female representative for the student population, and also we are involved in many different things. And that will then allow us where all of this responsibility isn't just on one person, it's between us two, so we could tag team with the school to really get information out to the students and bridge that gap. And that's something we're going to work forward toward and see what the specific roles will be. Yeah.
And I'm excited that you're doing the loan connection.
Yeah.
That's going to save you a little bit of money.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
And give you a head start. It's great.
Yeah, no, it's super great.
So-
And I'm going to let all the incoming juniors know about it a lot more because this past few years hasn't been really broadcasted as much as it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cesar, we had the benefit of having Sierra here for 2 years, and being that you're a junior, I hope we can have a little longevity there. Are you thinking about 2 years in this position?
Yeah, definitely 2 years. I want to make it last as long as possible, and I want to continue working with you guys.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Good luck.
Thank you.
I'm having a technical problem. We can't pull the board doc.
Is Larry
can
here?
you assist Member Crocker, please?
Thank you.
Next, we move on to public comment on non-agenda items, and we have Angela Silvera.
Are we done with the superintendent report?
We're going to take public comment first as my prerogative because I already called her up. Is that all right? I'm sorry. No, that's all right. Come on up.
Yeah.
I was looking at the wrong place.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angela Silvera. I am a parent at Lincoln Elementary. I'm also the parent group president for PALS there. I'm coming today because I now have all of my 3 kids in school. Yes. But because of that, that meant I had 3 registration packets to fill out. And it took me a very long time to fill out, about 15 pages for each kid. And so I looked up how many students there are in the district, and it's about 6,000, and it's like 5,900. But if it's 6,000 kids times 15 pages, double-sided, because it needs to be in English and Spanish, at least at our school it does, that's 180,000 pieces of paper. And so I feel like I need to be like from the Lorax, that I need to speak for the trees, and also for the parents that don't want to fill out 3 packets, and also for the cost, because if I figured it out correctly, I think it's somewhere in the cost range of like $50,000 for all those packets, maybe 60, that we need to go to online registration. There's many, many locations that do it in the state of California. I would assume that it would be cost effective in the long run. But on that, I just wanted to speak for the trees tonight, so thank you.
We don't engage the community in non-agenda items. However, if the superintendent wants to make any comment.
On that item, I do. We agree, and we are looking at, we have activated the online portion of our database, but we are looking to expand to make that easier and looking at it from two standpoints. One is making it much more simple for returning parents and having that be a shorter, more defined process, kind of like you would have when you're updating your information on your bank access account. And then the other would be maybe a full packet, but would also be digital for new parents to make it easier for families to register. So that is something we've already started. And I think that also speaks directly to imperative 3, which is about increasing enrollment. If people have to wait forever to get something processed, we'll lose enrollment. So it's underway. So thank you.
Okay, we have another individual wishing to speak. Mr. Su, or is that how you pronounce it? Just to let you know, since I know you're new to the district, we allow 3 minutes.
Sure, thank you. Let me before I get started, let me distribute this to you. I'll give it to you. Thank you. All right. Dear Board of Education Superintendent and Associate Superintendent of Newark Unified School District. First of all, thank you for the opportunity for me to speak in the board meetings. My name is Bo Chang-Xu. I actually live in the city of Fremont the past 20 years, and also spent quite some time in the city of Newark. I personally have more than 20 years of experiences in higher education, both as a faculty member, also as an administrator. I'm also a father of 2 sons who completed their K-12 education from the public school in the Fremont Unified School District, and also thereafter, they all graduated from the colleges. I'm here today actually to formally submit a petition for setting up a independent charter school in Newark School District. I only bring this, the cover pages with table of contents, and also a short summary of the benefit of charter school to the school district to you today, since we have actually hand-delivered 15 copies of 150 pages of petition to Mr. Lina's office last Thursday. Thank you. The petition documentation actually include our bylaws, board members' article of incorporation, etc. I choose the name of a school as Uplift Cedar Charter School, since I frequently travel through Cedar Boulevard in Newark and know that it's vital to the city. Since I'm a lead petitioner of the charter school, I would like to actually briefly talk about the structure of the school and the synergy of the school with the school district. I believe that the charter school will be an alternative to the traditional public school. Also, it will provide an education opportunity for those who cannot afford to attend expensive private schools. Uplift Charter School, Uplift Cedar Charter School is a charter school that will serve grade K-12 students in Alameda County, also the adjacent counties. It also will serve workforce development youth aged from 14 to 24 in the state of California. There are students who cannot complete their, cannot complete their formal education for any reasons. The school is a nonprofit public school and is being approved by the state of California as a nonprofit organization, which is included in the petition documentation. The primary teaching method of the courses will be through online by instructor with California teaching credentials. Branded and hybrid mode of teachings can also be made possible if the district can provide a few classrooms for us as a tutoring centers. We are also exploring the opportunity to work with local industries such as Facebook on personalized learnings. Like other public schools, the school will be held accountable based on its academic performance. Also,
Please wrap up. Your time is, please, you can finish your sentence, but it's okay. 3 minutes is up.
The charter school also is in line with the strategic imperative of the school district.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm seeking Board of Education to support and approve the petition. We are also ready for the public hearing if Board can help us to schedule that. Thank you.
Next, we move on to Superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Thomas, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I just want to give you a brief update. We did have a study session earlier and are continuing to update and review our strategic plan. We're looking at a format so we can really put it on our front page so people can see what we're doing and kind of how it's developing over time. And looking at some more measurable ways to progress monitor how we're achieving each of the imperatives. And the board did some work on the editing some of the documents and specifically the board letter to the community. So we'll be making some updates on that, and I think that it's still a work in process, and we're continuing to work on the document. So just want to share that with the public. And I know some of the board members that weren't here, so they know that we're still working on it. And also tonight, as mentioned at the August 6th meeting, tonight we'll be bringing you the summer 2018 staff report from Ed Services. That's coming. So I know I just want to get into the segment where I say, okay, you guys asked for that. Here's what you asked for. So it's coming tonight, and we could look forward to that later this evening. I also have a handout for everyone, and I think we have some in the back, but I want to share this with the board. And I have shared this with principals, Chief of Police, Mayor Nagy. It's kind of a graphic organizer, if you will. I think there's some in the back now that Char's just handed out. Maybe one more, you can take that one. It's a kind of a graphic organizer that kind of explains how the volunteer policy works and when's the right way to do the right type of background check. And I think that this is something that's really important, and I think it's really exciting to see that we're just trying to make a really complicated thing simple and give people a real clear way of how we can do it. And I can tell you that there's a lot of concern when we're dealing with students and having them be vaccinated and having people around them who we know are safe. So this is really about keeping our kids safe, and I think it's just another way to present that information to the public and the community so that it's pretty easy to understand and not very complicated. We haven't drafted it in other languages, that's to come, but I wanted to share that with you, and I think it's really kudos to HR department, HR team, and Ms. Saavedra for working on this with people to just make it easier to understand. But it's also really intended for our sites to help communicate with our volunteers to make sure we're doing the right process for the right thing that they want to do. On another kind of positive note along those lines, and it'll be in the donation report later, a local vendor or business owner has donated $2,000 to help pay for a family or a volunteer that has financial need for the volunteer background check, if that comes up, if that were to come up. And you'll see more information about that later in the donation process. But I think that besides, discretionary funds, one way that principals can pay for that, parents can raise money is another way, and some of our title schools can use some title money for that. There probably is still a need to raise some money for people that don't fit in one of those categories. And if there's a volunteer, I know that I've had some calls from other people in the community saying that paying for it shouldn't be a barrier to volunteering. So it's something we're working on, and we have a little bit of seed money to start with at least. So I'm glad to report that. Next section is really, I'd like to recommend or have the city liaison and board committee, the board consider discussing at the city liaison next meeting this idea of fingerprinting, live scan. Is there a way we could collaborate with them further? And I think that's an appropriate thing to discuss at the city liaison committee. I had some preliminary conversations with the chief of police, and we decided that's probably the most appropriate place to have that conversation. A couple more items. We're close to the end. Newark Days Parade on September 22nd. It's on my calendar already, but the theme this year is that it's a wizard's world. So it's good for you to know. I think each of you had a t-shirt from the Newark Days Committee, if one of you would show that. So we can only imagine what's going to happen. So we're starting to get schools organized and get ready for the parade on that date. We had asked the principals to mark their calendar. So Shar will be getting with central office team to come up with ideas and suggestions for our float. She's kind of the lead person on the Wizard float this year. And it should be a fun way to participate and just, get the momentum going again like we did last year. On the horizon, future board meetings, on September 18th, we are going to be doing a deeper budget study session that will include status report on Russian dollars, Measure G, what's been done, what remains, and what's on the horizon, and developer fees, as well as the time clock and where are we relative to the time clock in using the Measure G dollars. So Lowell is preparing that, and we'll be transitioning that to the new CBO if approved tonight. Those are the items from my report, unless there's some questions from any board member on any of the items. I just wanted to give you an update.
I just had one, Superintendent. I know Mr. Su got up and talked about the charter school, and I just want to make sure the community knows that you've already shared that with the board and as superintendent, so that we know that there has been an application put in for a charter school. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and may I add, I apologize, that it was submitted officially today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we had earlier done public comments on non-agenda items. Several people have come into the room since then. If there's anyone that wants to address non-agenda items, I will reopen that agenda item. Seeing none, Superintendent or Ms. Salinas, would you like to introduce the staff report?
Yes, thank you. I would like to invite our Director of Special Projects, Ms. Robin Sert, and then also Ms. Angelica Aguilar, who was one of our summer school administrators who supervised our program.
Yeah, I'm just a little short. Good evening, President Thomas, school board members, Superintendent Sanchez, and Executive Cabinet. I'm excited to present about all the summer opportunities our students had, K-12. We had a number of administrators. There's a couple of us here tonight to share with you. Catherine Ingham Waters and I did the Summer Math Academy. She had a full day of presenting today, so I told her I'll go ahead and present on our behalf. Angelica Aguilar was our principal for the Summer Math Academy for the junior high. And then Grace Huerta was our high school principal, and she's already headed off into retirement. So I will be sharing with you tonight some of the successes and then our recommendations for the next summer. So we're going to start with the high school. We had 351 students who were served and provided an opportunity for academic support. 92% of the students enrolled completed at least one class. 7 of the 9 seniors that were enrolled graduated, so we had a graduation ceremony for them. We had a full-time counselor, and we offered 178 APEX courses. In addition, we had a number of service providers to continue to support our students with mental health services during the summer, so there wasn't a break or lapse in their service. And then the high school had a campaign this summer called the Summer Success Standards, and you can kind of see them on the side, to attend summer school every day on time for the full 20 days. To be on campus with your cell phones turned off, be respectful to classmates and adults, and come prepared and ready to go. So following along the lines of PBIS, but during the summer as well. Their successes, as I shared before, were that 78% of the students who attended graduated and had their summer ceremony. So again, that was 7 of the 9 students. Here's some quick data for you. Overall, the biggest course or the most attended course was the APEX, and students were provided support with that. The second one was biology, CP biology. So students were able to attend and receive credit for that. Here is a very colorful wheel of all of the APEX courses that we offered. 753 courses were offered during the summer. All right. A little bit of our data. We had 41 students who were identified as English learners. 37 of them passed at least one course. For our students who are identified as needing additional support with special education, we had 36 students who passed at least one course as well. And then we did have one extended school year class that was offered. It was our TALL program, and it was the Montsevier program, and 16 students attended that. Some recommendations for next year are to expand our summer opportunities and academic support for our EL students so we can really hone in and provide them additional support, and we won't see that gap in learning for them over the summer. Provide pre-planning time for teachers to review student needs and IEPs, so we're making sure we're meeting all of their needs during the summer as well. Seek alternative recovery programs for our students with IEPs. Begin working earlier on the master's schedule for summer and getting IT support, maybe in May versus right at the end of the school year. Oops, did I go the wrong way? And then begin, so we started right out of the, I think we had 1 day off and then a teacher work day, and we started that Monday. So there was no break. Everybody was getting it all set in that short amount of time. So the recommendation is to give 1 more day in between so we can make sure that we are including all the students who really needed the support by getting their final grades. Okay. That was the high school program. So our elementary program, this was our 2nd year of the Summer Math Academy. Again, the Summer Math Academy really came from the LCAP process with our parents saying we need some additional support for our kids. And so we were able to provide this Math Academy last year and this year. We had about 250 students that we served. There was a specific math concept for each grade level, so it was really targeted instruction. Teachers, it was a 2-hour session, 2 2-hour sessions. They had number talks and inquiry lessons, and then on Fridays they did STEAM lessons. We had a coach, our very own Melissa, and I'm blanking on her name right now. She's our teacher at Lincoln. She's phenomenal, and she's an SBMI trainer. Moore, there we go, thank you. Melissa Moore, and she came and did coaching with the teachers and some PD prior, and then she went in the classroom and coached them right in the middle of the lessons. So really to help strengthen their teaching and their craft of teaching. We had high school tutors, and Caesar, your new board member, was one of those high school tutors, who, by the way, is a Snow alum. Just had to throw that in there. And it was exciting to see the high school tutors. It's a win-win for everyone. We would walk in the classrooms, and Caesar particularly would be up there teaching the lesson and working alongside the teacher. So it's a really good learning opportunity. We know he has, really like probably STEM in his vision, but we were trying to get him to be a teacher too. Here's some just quick data on in our short time with the kids. We had in our kindergarten 90%, just about 90% of our students made growth, with 10 just staying stagnant. In 1st grade, the average between the pre and the post test on that one math concept, there was an average increase of about 1.5%. In 2nd grade, there was an average of a 15% increase. In 3rd grade, there was a 3% increase. 4th grade, 14% increase. And 5th grade, a 10% increase. So just with that one mathematical concept and being so focused, we really saw a dramatic increase for our students. And we only went to 5th grade this year because we had the opportunity for the 6th grade at the junior high, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. One other addition for our Summer Math Academy was we had a family math night. Melissa Moore and another trainer from SBMI came out. We weren't quite sure, since it was the summer, if we'd get enough turnout, and we had a phenomenal turnout. We had many families coming out and experiencing number talks and inquiry lessons, so it was a really exciting night. Our recommendations for next year is to always, register students early. We did that this year, but even streamlining the process. Again, it was really difficult for families to come to a 10-15 session. So we're looking at ways to either make a reading and writing session that those students stayed in after their math session or vice versa. Continue to utilize the growth monitoring on iReady for additional data. And then because we know next year's calendar is a little bit shorter, we thought maybe a 2 to 3 week intensive 3-hour session. So parents could drop off for a 3-hour block, and 2 hours of math, 1 hour of STEAM. All right, and so this, with our junior high, I'm going to have you stand with me just to answer questions if they have them at the end, but I'm going to quickly go through the junior high as well. They were able to serve 113 students, again, a specific math topic. They did it weekly and by grade level. 36% had the, so do you want to explain that? 36 highest growth rate?
We had a pre and post test, and I looked at the student that had the highest growth rate, and so there was one 7th grader and one 8th grader at 36% growth rate.
Wow. And then all 7th graders who completed the program had positive growth, with just 2 having neutral or stayed the same. So here's some data. It's very colorful, pre and post of all of our students. 16 of the 21, these were incoming 7th graders, so 6th graders made 76% growth. Okay. Our outgoing 7th graders, so heading into 8th grade, 100% of those students who actually started and completed the summer session made growth. Our outgoing accelerated 7th graders, 95% of them made growth. And our outgoing 8th graders, who will be 9th graders on Thursday, 9 of the 12 had made 75% growth. So a lot of growth happened with the focus on math. Some recommendations for next year, same kind of thing. Send out flyers sooner, get them out to students. Add an additional administrative support in the office to help with all of the paperwork and registering students. And then at the end, to send out a survey to families and ask them about their recommendations on how to improve the program. And then the last program we had for our students was Aloni for Kids. There were a variety of classes offered for our students. We had 206 of our Newark students that filled the seats for Aloni for Kids. These students were selected by the principals and parent partners, first by students who qualified for free and reduced lunch, and then to students who were English learners, and then finally it was opened up to all other students. We are going to continue this relationship with Aloni. They will be coming in during the school year to support our students at school sites as well. Try to be as fast as I could, but give you enough information. Do you have any questions for us?
Ray, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mrs. Surt and
Aguilar, Mrs. Aguilar.
Ms. Aguilar, thank you for your report. I was very excited about the summer program. I wanted to make sure that we extend our thank you to Principal Huertas and the staff at the high school and Principal Waters and everybody else that was involved. When we had the graduation for the summer school high school kids, a few of them, there weren't that many, but it's such an important program that the kids that don't get to walk get to do the summer school and finish and move on to going to college. And so I'm just so happy, Superintendent, that we were able to offer that. My granddaughters were in the academy, the math academy, and what they liked the best was naturally the high school kids coming down. And as the little ones always like the older kids coming in. So I wanted to thank you, and hopefully we can expand that. On the Aloni for Kids, I got a chance to go to Schilling, and I was there when they were recruiting parents for the Aloni for Kids, and that partnership is excellent. And they were able to get so many kids qualified that they didn't have to pay and to offer it free. I wanted to ask you a question about the summer feed program, where our cafeteria, they feed the kids during the summer. And I know some of the kids leave before lunch. Can you kind of, were there kids there where they fed them, or did they leave before they had a chance?
So we had several sites that were open to our community, and if they were already finished with the Summer Math Academy at any of the sites, they could attend one of the open cafeterias. Like many of our families stayed, or families from the community came to the open cafeteria at Snow. Do you want to add anything to that?
And then we also had a great partnership with the public library, and I just got the numbers today, and so I wasn't able to put this into the presentation, so I'd like to share it the next time, put it on the website. We fed thousands of kids this summer through the public library, and it's a great partnership with the City of Newark and the Alameda County. So yes, there were many sites throughout the city.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyway, hopefully you can thank the, Mary and the cafeteria people for, doing that. Everything was great. Thank you.
Ms. Crocker?
Just a clarification, the Aloni for Kids in the past has been a fee kind of thing.
Yes.
How is it paid for this time?
So we used funds out of the LCAP to pay for it. So we used a combination of Title I funds, which is why we targeted the free and reduced price population students, and then some LCFF. We also offered, our parent partners were working with some families who also were able to apply for scholarships. That was outside of these 206 kids. So we had a lot of families who also took advantage of that. There was a scholarship through Ohlone College for other, this wasn't all that they offered. They offered so many different workshops for kids. So it was a combination of both.
Thank you. The other point I wanted to make has to do with the summer slide. And so you talk about being able to improve. Is there any way that you're going to be judging the fact that they're not sliding backwards?
So school sites can pull they're going to do an initial iReady assessment again with the same, they'll do the full assessment, but they'll be able to see, we send to the school sites progress report to show you where they left off in the summer. They'll do that iReady assessment and see, has there been any summer slide or have they maintained?
Thank you. Good.
Yeah. So I also noticed that we worked on the things that the junior high teachers were saying that they students needed more assistance in. So multiplying, dividing, decimals. And so we also front-loaded a lot of the material that they're going to see. So this year I'm very interested in seeing if that front-loading is actually going to help them be more successful and for the teachers to have a smoother time with the students in the year. So I also will be looking at data from the students and seeing how they do this year.
I'm glad you said that because also with our fifth graders, that's why we took two sections of fifth grade classes because we also front-loaded ratios for them for sixth grade to start to really build a foundation for them. So that way we know the students we served are typically our at-risk students who struggle a little bit, and so we wanted to front-load some of those concepts before sixth grade.
Good.
Well, I think the Math Academy is especially important given that we have a focus now on math. So those improvements are really interesting to look at. I noticed some of the, can you compare last year with this year in terms of, and overall for the whole summer program, attendance? Did we have good attendance or increased attendance over previous years? I noticed some of the students had pre-assessment but not post.
Some on the junior high also had post but no pre.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
So it just depends. Like we were talking about this before we started and being really strict with the 2-day attendance. If you miss 2 days, then we have to drop you. But we also want to provide students as much support as we can. We know that things come up like funerals with families and things like that. So we support and make sure students continue in our program. I would say for the Math Academy, we had about the same exact attendance. We had hoped by letting families know in March that what the dates were, that they would set those aside, but we still faced a lot of families that went on vacation. Because we started right away, a lot of families didn't realize it started, so we had to call families and bring them in, but they came. So I would say we probably had about the same attendance. That's why I think looking at the restructuring of it, maybe making it a 3-hour intensive for a shorter amount of time, like 2 or 3 weeks. I think it's easier for families if they can drop off at 8:30 and pick up at 11:30.
Right. Well, it's great that we assess our programs every year, and they keep getting better and better, and I especially like the Math Academy, and I hope we continue that. And the Readers and Writers Workshop, was that also was...
That was one of our suggestions, too, is maybe have the kids come for Readers and Writers Workshop and then stay for math as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
Next, we move on to 11.1, Board Policy Administrative Regulation 1312.3. This is the second reading. Does any board member want to comment on this or move it forward with the...
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, please vote. Four ayes. Thank you. Next, we have the 2018-19 College and Career Access Pathways Dual Enrollment Partnership. Ms. Salinas, would you like to introduce that item?
Yes, absolutely. Last year, our Board of Education and also the trustees for Ohlone College met and had a wonderful joint session speaking about some of the opportunities that we could really interact with our two entities. And one of the outcomes of that was a revitalized MOU that really speaks to offering our students dual enrollment. This past summer was the first time as we were looking at CalPads, we were really counting dual enrollment. And so what this MOU speaks to is increased opportunities for our students, but it also enacts a law where a community college can be offered on a high school campus, but does not necessarily have to be open to the public. And so in the past, there could be members of the public who would take classes on high school campuses. And I think our electeds got it right, and this is an opportunity for our kids by our local community college. And so we come forward with a second reading, and a big thank you to our board for really staying on top of this, that this is something that will benefit our district.
Okay. I have a question. The funding on this. How does the funding work, if you could explain it simply?
Yes, absolutely. So there's no charge to the student. This is all through, students are actually enrolled in community college with Ohlone. In terms of the expenses for textbooks, and so what we do is that we look at our lottery funds and we work with providing students the textbooks. And then we do what all good college students do. If they're not going to use it again, at the end, we resell them and kind of have this pot of money that regenerates and is used. Actually, this is the first time that we are using a textbook. In the past, there was more readers, and Ohlone College was providing readers. So we have a new instructor this year, and so we'll be working with her and with the vice president to look at the reselling process and what other options we have for our students. So this all comes at no cost to our kids.
I'm looking in terms of who gets, we're talking about ADA. So do both levels get the ADA, or is it something that's separate? Or?
You know, I'm going to have to follow up because I'm looking at Mr. Simon, who's avoiding my glance, because we actually had a conversation about this past summer, and so I'd be happy to share that with the board as an update. But we were working through CalPads, and it was really ensuring that we are tracking it correctly for the first time as to whether or not there's dual ADA, but certainly Ohlone College, they are, students are writing applications, working with our counselors who really do the lift of this job, but I can follow up on ADA and how that works.
Good. The other piece is that there's one class that's being offered, or actually two classes.
It's one class that's offered, but it's two sections each semester.
And are we looking to expand that?
That is my hope. So our students actually took a survey last year as to what were their top 3 classes they would like. So there was a lot of STEM focus. There was American Sign Language. And then, of course, we also have the cohort of students, as Ms. Van Rossen was sharing earlier, of the Ohlone Connection. So that's another group of students that are working. But the instructor for that is our employee. In this case, with dual enrollment, Ohlone College provides the instructor and pays for the instructor.
But isn't it true that we also pay for the books for the Ohlone Connection students that are taking
Correct,
Ohlone
yes, and then
courses.
we resell them at the end of the semester.
Is there a process by which an individual student at this point can select individual classes and be able to take them?
Yes, there is. So that's the other part of this MOU. It's working with our counselors to get the word out. So our students also are able to apply for Ohlone College and take classes on Saturdays or after school. What we're looking at is expanding our offerings, perhaps second semester, to have an after-school class that's offered on campus. But right now, our students don't have to take a class at New York Memorial. They can actually go to Ohlone College on Saturdays and evenings to take a class also. And it's a fairly expanded, there are more options for kids.
Is there a charge for high school students to do that?
There isn't, but there is with textbooks.
Right.
So that's where they would be the cost. And the district would not be responsible for providing that. That's voluntary.
Thank you.
I noticed there were two options. One of them was that these courses were taught at our high school, and another one was that they could be taught at Ohlone. We chose the first one, but there's the second paragraph after that alludes to the fact that we can't restrict the enrollment in a class that's taught at Ohlone. But that's kind of a that I would recommend that paragraph be taken out because it doesn't apply because our classes are only taught at Newark. So only our students will be going to them. Okay. With that modification, I would ask that the board, I'm sorry.
As for getting this to the students, I suggest, because along with the dual enrollments that's already at the high school and then also Ohlone Connections, it's really just misinformation that the students don't know what it is, or they think that they can only take these classes if they're planning to go to Ohlone. They don't think it's transferable, the credits. So that needs to be extremely just strengthened within the communication through the high school. I know before, like my freshman year, there was like a specific day where there was the students would be taken out of, like, let's say English class, and there would be a little information little booth or assembly where they would get all the information and answer any questions they need to know about this. And I feel like this would be really beneficial for the juniors that are going into senior year. Because, I mean, for me, I didn't know about any of this until I really, really did my own research about it. So the communication definitely just needs to be strengthened.
Sierra, I think you would be an outstanding ambassador to bridge that information back to the school.
I was already planning on talking about Ohlone Connections throughout the year and doing some sort of assembly, but adding on to this also, I feel like this would also be something that I can add on to it.
And we could benefit from having you come and fill us in on your experience.
Yeah, no.
Because we really haven't heard too much about the success of the Ohlone Connections program.
Yeah, and I agree. It wasn't until I reached out to the specific students that took the courses and I heard all of the great benefits about taking the college classes and how much it benefited them into their freshman and sophomore years. Like, I'm already opted out of most of my freshman year classes going into college, and that's just amazing because I'll be able to save a lot of money. But yeah.
I think also, in terms of information to the students, is that they're not restricted just to going to Ohlone.
Yeah.
This is true for all the JCs, and so this is something. I have a granddaughter that got half of her. She'll be a sophomore or junior next year because of the fact that she has taken these classes in addition to the classes that she had at the high school. So I think it's a lot of it's communication. I do have a specific question, Ms. Thomas. What are you talking about changing in the agreement?
It's the paragraph following in the beginning, following the two options. That paragraph should be.
Do you have a page?
I have to pull it up.
There's 21 pages there.
It's toward the beginning. It's on page 5. And And you can see that option 2 is removed.
Correct.
And then I would like to make a motion that we approve it with deleting paragraph 6.2, which says courses offered as part of this agreement at Ohlone may not limit enrollment, because we're not going to be doing that. And then just keep renumbering that section.
Okay, thank you.
And with that, I would make the motion.
I will second.
Okay.
I have a
Please
question.
vote.
You have a question?
I have a question
Oh, I'm
before
sorry.
you vote. To me, it's always better to have more than less, and I understand what you're saying, but personally, I really like the fact that it's there, because it basically tells everybody that the agreement may not limit enrollment in the course, okay? The fact that, this is a partnership between Ohlone and the school district, and to me, kind of tells the story right there. So I really don't feel that we need to remove
I
that.
think the reason I did that, Mr. Rodriguez, is because in courses that are offered at Ohlone, they're saying you can't restrict students from Ohlone that are not our students from the course. And since we're not offering any courses at Ohlone, it seems to me it doesn't belong there.
Okay.
So the only thing we're doing is having a class on our campus.
Yes,
We are not doing anything else with the Ohlone classes.
right. We're not having our students attend classes at Ohlone,
Correct. So then,
unless you want to change that at some point.
What I can share is that it would not preclude students from going to Ohlone and taking classes there. They can
Right.
still do that. And the good thing about this MOU is that this is also an annual MOU. So for the first time, you'll start seeing these. This will be a regular process every year.
there's only one class listed at this point that is going to be covered under this.
Currently.
So essentially what we're doing is we're getting a Ohlone teacher to teach a class that we need to have at the high school, on the high school campus, to our students.
To our students, and only open to our
It
students.
would not be open to anybody from Ohlone to come and join us.
Correct.
Which I think is a very good safeguard.
Would,
Okay.
we have a quorum with all of us voting, so Mr. Rodriguez, I think it's important that if you're going to vote no, that we restate the motion.
No, my question is it's already in there, and I just don't feel that it's that important to me to take it out, because to me it looks all inclusive.
Well, then, in that case, I will amend my motion to not make that change.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will accept that.
Okay, please vote.
Thank you.
4 ayes, thank you. Next, we move on to item 12.1, and I am going to read a statement. We have worked with our attorneys on this item. This item serves as the board's formal discussion and approval of a previous 2016-17 salary increase given to NUMA employees. The Brown Act requires that we disclose a summary of the proposed increase. The material terms are as follows: a 1% annual increase effective July 1, 2016. That concludes the summary of the proposed salary increase. Again, this is not a new increase, but the formal approval of a previous increase given to NUMA employees during the 2016-17 school year. A complete copy of the salary schedule is available tonight for the audience. Also, a copy is available from the district office upon request. So I would enter a motion.
I move that we approve it.
I'll second.
Please vote. Four ayes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to I'm going to entertain people that are asking to to address this second resolution 2114. No,
2.2.
12.2, excuse me. NUMA and unrepresented salary schedule adjustment 2017-18. First, Ms. Parks.
Good evening. I'm glad that you're finally putting in the public's purview what you did in closed session over a year ago. I think that it is unconscionable that it's taken a year for it to wind up here. But I think one of the things that really upsets me more about, well, equally, is the fact that by doing this portion right here, because it has the Assistant Superintendent of HR, which was Dr. Wong, and his first day was July 1 of 2017, this document here, the day he walked in here, you gave him a 1.5% pay increase based on this document. And I don't know if you all know that when you voted on this, but I think that that is something that the public should be aware of, and that you should consider that the next time you're doing something of this magnitude, is that it should not be reflective in somebody who it's their first day for them to automatically get a 1.5% pay increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Noop? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, you have 12.3. Mr. Merritt.
Good evening. When NTA negotiates a salary, it's based on the needs of the teachers. NTA members understand that everyone deserves a fair wage, and unions have a history of fighting for the underdog. I'm concerned that offering the same salary and bonus percentages increases to various groups is not always appropriate. It seems out of place for NTA to negotiate an increase sitting across the table with members of management that will also be offered those same benefits. Please understand that teachers struggle to pay rent and mortgages, feed their families, pay for gas, and provide appropriate health care. These increases help alleviate those problems. Many of us work multiple jobs. It should be understood that a 1% increase on a $70,000 salary is 1/2 of that of a 1% increase on a $140,000 salary. Many have asked me why NUMA and cabinet members get a Me Too. Now, I know the language may not say Me Too, but as they say, a duck is a duck. In closing, I would like to invite NUMA and unrepresented employees to join NTA and pay dues if you continue to expect NTA to negotiate for you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to read the following statement. This item serves as the board's formal discussion and approval of a previous 2017-18 salary increase given to NUMA employees. The Brown Act requires that we disclose a summary of the proposed increase. The material terms are as follows. A 1.56% annual increase effective July 1, 2017. All unit members who served at least 75% of the number of workdays in the 2016-17 school year and who remained in employment with the district for the 2017-18 school year received a one-time off-schedule stipend equal to 2% of their salary as reflected on the 2017-18 salary schedule. The stipend was to be paid in one lump sum in the regular September 2017 pay warrant. That concludes the summary of the proposed salary increase. Again, this is not a new increase, but the formal approval of a previous increase given to NUMA employees during the 2017-18 school year. A complete copy of the salary schedule is available tonight for the audience. Also, a copy is available from the district office upon request.
I move acceptance.
Second.
Please vote. Wait, I have to close. Please vote. Four ayes. Thank you. Next, we move on to 12.3, Resolution 2114 to eliminate the structural deficit. And Mr. Noop. wants to discuss this.
Good evening. Well, you know, it looks like that the board has some problems with transparency if I look at the two prior items, but I was pleasantly surprised by this resolution. It shows that the board wants to be transparent. They want to inform the public. We have a potential deficit for this year, and also the board is taking action. And so, bravo. I hope this is a new road that this board takes of being more transparent and proactive. So again, I think it's wonderful that this resolution is out, and that what I understand by December, the district will have a plan ready to get a close budget. So wonderful, and congratulations for having it. Thanks.
Ms. Parks?
After attending the multiple budget sessions that you had last year to get out of the deficit, it was unfortunate to watch the presentation you had at the last meeting by your interim CBO, and that you were going to be $559,000 in debt, as opposed to what he had projected your budget was going to be for this year. So I'm very pleased with this resolution, just as Mr. Knoop said, and I'm very happy that you're trying to stay to what you had said, that you want to stay out of deficit spending, and that you're looking to make the changes to accommodate some of that unforeseen revenue that you were not going to receive. Thank you.
Thank you. Carrie Sanchez Para from CSEA.
Good evening. You said it correctly the first time. I'm Carrie Sanchez Para. I am the CSEA Labor Relations Rep for Chapter 208 here in Newark, and I'm here to speak on this issue. We understand that the district is faced with a lot of budget challenges, including the structural deficit. Our concern is that any cost-cutting measures now or in the future be carefully considered with regard to equity across the entire organization and not disproportionately to classified staff. Classified staff has little to no input to budget development, but remains vulnerable to budget reductions year after year. We are over 220 strong classified members: clerical, custodian, grounds, maintenance, warehouse, food service, including the folks that feed those wonderful students during the summer, para-educators who support them in the classrooms, and campus monitors. We work hand in hand with the district on state funding initiatives and local funding initiatives, such as bond measures. So we encourage you to look when you're making these cuts across the entire organization and not just on the backs of classified members. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any request from the board to speak to this issue or to make a motion?
I will move acceptance of 12.3, resolution to eliminate structural deficit.
Second.
Please vote. 4 ayes. Thank you. Whoops. Close and split. I did. Thank you. 4 ayes. 12.5 has been eliminated from the budget earlier in an agenda adjustment, and so we move on to 12.4. Oh, 12.4. I am so sorry.
Donations.
I'm so sorry. Donations report, and I'm going to ask one of my colleagues here to read it after we accept it.
I move acceptance.
Second.
Please vote. Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. We have a public comment on this item. Before we vote, we will take your public comment, Ms. Parks. Sorry, and thank you for reminding me.
That's okay.
Mr. Sanchez, would you remind me too?
Okay.
I wanted to address the $2,000 donation that was for the volunteer program. I know that there was a lot of back and forth during the policy structuring, and I know that at the very end I had voiced concern about the funding mechanism, and it's very nice to see that you got the $2,000 donation for that, and I heard earlier your plans for searching for other funds, but I would also ask that you would entertain some funds out of your LCAP in the future when you're making those plans for this next year. There is a parent involvement component in that and in most site plans, and I think that that's a very appropriate tool. You put your money where your mouth is, and if you say volunteerism and parent support is important, you need to back it with money, and I would encourage you to look to your LCAP for some support for that, just as you did further on in your agenda with your guest teacher support, financial support. Thank you.
Thank you. So would one of you offer to read the, we vote, we need to vote. Please vote. 4 ayes. Thank you.
I can start.
Mr. Rodriguez will read them.
Oh, do you have it? It's the donations.
12.4.
I'll read the first three, and then maybe Member Crocker, and then Sierra, if you don't mind. Donation, $160 for Newark Junior High School. Donation date June 20th. The donor is Your Cause LLC trustee for PG&E, and it's intended for school use as determined by the principal. Next donation is $25 for Newark Junior High, June 20th, 2018. Again, Your Cause LLC trustee for PG&E, school use as determined by the principal. $250 for Newark Memorial High School, June 28th, 2018. Smart and Final Charitable Foundation, ROP culinary class.
$5,150.38 for Newark Memorial High School, June 29th, from the Newark Betterment Corporation, chairs and chair dollies for Newark Memorial High School Theater. $10,000 for Newark Unified School District for all the elementary schools plus the junior high from the Newark Betterment Corporation for the Young Authors Program, which is creative writing, on August 7th. $77 for Newark Junior High, August 7th, from the Benavides Community Impact Fund to be used by the principal.
The next donation is $500 for the adult school McGregor on August 9th from Sue Eustace, Waikato, Newark, or taiko drumming. And this is for school use determined by the principal. And then $2,000 for the superintendent's office on August 15th from Mr. A.J. Kim, the owner of O Sushi, and the costs of fingerprinting and TB testing for superintendent-approved parent volunteers. And that is for a total of $18,164.38 of donations.
Very good. And one of our donors is in the audience, Ms. Eustace. Thank you very much for your donation. And of course, thanks to the city for their generous donations, and to Mr. Kim from Osushi. I misspoke a moment earlier when I mentioned the item, but 12.5 is CBOC member reappointment of Mr. Merrick Yarbrough.
Move acceptance.
Second.
Please vote.
I had a quick question.
Yes?
Is this for 1 year, or does it say year? Oh, here it is. It's for 2 years. Okay.
For 2 years.
Question would
and how many times are they able to get reappointed?
2 terms.
2 terms.
3.
3. Yeah, 3
so
terms.
They have term limits.
Thank you, Mr. Modzelewski, for continuing on the CBOC.
Merrick.
I mean, Mr. Merrick.
Marilosi was withdrawn.
Someone moved the cursor a little too soon for me. Okay, next we move on to 12.7 because 12.6 was pulled earlier, and that's CBOC member appointment. Ms. Angela Silvera.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
She's here in the audience.
Yeah, good. Please vote.
Okay.
4 ayes. Thank you. Ms. Silvera, do you want to make any comments? We thank you so much for your
Thank you.
thank you for your service. Next, 12.8 CBOC member appointment, Mr. Waters. Richard Waters.
Move acceptance.
Second.
Please vote. Four ayes. Thank you. Next, CBOC member appointment, Mr. Tony Doot.
Move to approve.
I second.
Please vote. Ms. Crocker?
I didn't click through. Okay.
Okay. 4 ayes. Mr. Doot, would you like to say anything? Well, congratulations,
Thank you.
and thank you very much for joining the CBOC. We have a wonderful slate of new members. We really appreciate it.
I have a question to ask, if I might.
Sure.
What spots are open, and what do we have left to do in the?
We actually are going to be looking to make a bylaw change and meet with the CBOC at the first meeting. That meeting will be on the 11th of September. So it'll be before the subsequent board meeting. So we're looking at, the recommendation from Merrick was to look at adding members at large. And we're also going to review policy and state law, see if there's any updates from the CSBA relative to what are the requirements. They're very specific. So I think that hopefully before we get to the September 4th, actually the September 4th meeting is the next meeting. We'll be coming together, so hopefully we'll have some of this resolved. Now that these members have been approved, I'll be meeting with Merrick and working through some of the details of how can we have a definition for membership that is more inclusive and allowing more people to get involved.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, because they're in the audience, Mr. Knoop and Ms. Parks's long tenure and all of your contributions while on the CBOC. Can we give them a hand?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have 12.10, Master Contract with Trumpet Behavioral Health.
Move acceptance.
Second.
Please vote. Four ayes. Thank you. Item 12.11, interfund bargaining.
Move.
Interfund borrowing. Sorry.
Move to approve.
Please.
I will second that. I'd like to make a comment.
Sure. It's been made and seconded.
This is the process to allow cash flow to happen. So anytime the borrowings happen, the money is not permanently taken from that fund, but rather is just used to make sure that, it's used to make sure that the checks don't bounce, even though the money might be coming a little bit later from the state. So it's a usual accounting procedure. At that, I second and call for the question.
Okay. Please vote. Four ayes. Thank you. The following item and the following two items actually are here for a first reading, but given the timeliness of the application for a charter school authorization, I would like to recommend that the board approve this policy as opposed to holding it over for a second reading. So 12.2 is Board Policy Administrative Regulation 0420.4, Charter School Authorization.
I would like to do what we normally do, especially since it's only three of us, and I really want to hear from the other two board members. Going this route as far as charter school is, we've never done that before, and it's a very important step. And in my opinion, I just think we need more time.
Okay,
Yes, and may I speak to a little bit about this first reading, and with your approval, hopefully final reading, is specifically the CSBA language. This just talks about the process. It's a separate process to actually get a petition, and I will be briefing the board on that. So this actually allows us to have the process in place. This is not approving or denying anything. So I respectfully add that it's approved on first reading so that we may have transparency as to process for folks. And certainly we have made this Newark's version, but I will specifically say that it's really all California School Boards Association, pretty standard language.
Okay. So I'm okay.
Okay. Do we have a motion in a second? Oh, Ms. Crocker.
Yeah. I want to underline the fact that this is a school board organization that had suggested the wording, and I'm not sure that we want to get into changing things because it's all based on law.
Agreed.
So it's just a matter of making it clear so that everyone can understand exactly what process is going through. So I would like to respectfully move to accept it.
And I second.
Please vote. Sorry, I have to clear this. Oh, please vote. Four ayes, thank you. 12.13, Board Policy Exhibit 042.41, Charter School Oversight.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I move acceptance.
Second.
Please vote. Four ayes, thank you. (12.14) was pulled earlier, so we move on to 12.15, Resolution 2015, Declaration of Surplus Instructional Materials.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Please vote. Four ayes. Before I call up several people that have asked to speak to this item, I'm required to make a verbal declaration. We are now turning to agenda number 12.16, discussion and action on proposed amendments to Superintendent Employment Agreement. I am required by law to disclose the monetary terms of the proposed amendments to the agreement. Copies of the proposed amendments are available in the board packet on the district's website and in the back of the board meeting room. The proposed amendments include extending the superintendent's term of employee for 2 years from July 1, 2018 to June 30, 2020. A salary increase from $235,000 to $238,666, which reflects a 1.56% increase for the 2017-18 school year. A one-time bonus of 2% of his salary. Elimination of the cell phone stipend. Payments of dues for the superintendent to join the California Association of Latino Superintendents and Administrators. I will now open this for public comment. Ms. Parks?
Point of order. It's 1 year, not two, because he's already on contract through 2019. All we did is add a year.
Right. Okay. It's just we've only added 1 year. Right. You're right.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, I wanted to point out in section number 2B, salary increases by mutual consent, on the second or the third line, where it said reserves the right to change the superintendent's salary. There's a typo. It should be for any year. To be third line.
What did you want to change?
Superintendent's salary for any year. The for, it says FORP. And then I just...
Is that 2B?
2B, yes. Third line.
It's not in this version.
It's there.
On our version, it's not an error. Are you looking at the red line version? Maybe it's different.
It's corrected in this clean copy.
Oh, I'm looking at the clean copy, and it's correct on the clean copy.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for calling that to our
Okay.
attention.
And then, now I'm going to, okay, so I also agree with what was stated earlier by Mr. Barrett, the fact that I don't think that it's whether you say shall in the previous rendition or this one where you say may, having it tied to NTA, that unit along with the CSCA is actually bargaining for their raise. I don't think that it's appropriate for it to be tied. He supervises that group, and it just seems like it's inappropriate. But also under 2B, I'm kind of wondering if it's an area of, if it's also a mistake where it says that the negotiations have occurred since July 1, 2017. You already have given him the increase in 2A, and then you're saying that he may receive a salary increase each year of this agreement equal to the percentage increase given to the certificated employees bargaining unit based on the results of the negotiations that have occurred since July 1, 2017. So it's almost like you're giving him a double raise. So should that be 2018?
I checked with the attorney and the...
Point of order, this is public comment.
Oh.
Well, okay, I will
Okay,
save my comments.
sorry.
I will save my comments for the board now that could I have a motion in a second, please?
Any other speakers? Wait, another speaker?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Noop.
I was afraid I already was left out. Okay, I want to say a couple of things. And first of all, I want to talk about the superintendent's contract in the abstract. It has nothing to do with Mr. Sanchez. It's basically the process. And I have objections against the tying of the salary of the superintendent, and in fact, all contracted employees, with the fight of the NTA and NUMA. I don't think that's appropriate. I agree with Ms. Parks. First of all, it's a potential conflict of interest. It's also taking the raise out of the public scrutiny because it's kind of automatic. And, you know, for all intents and purposes, if a superintendent does a great job, he may get more raise. I mean, you could even argue with progressive taxes that he deserves even more raise. So, in a way, this is also limiting. So, I think it's inappropriate to do that, to tie that, and, you know, that's what I wanted to say about that. There's one other comment I want to make, and again, you know, since this is an additional year, I don't think you would want to consider changing that, but I think going forward, there's a clause in the contract that basically says if there's a termination without cause, that there's a 12-month salary, and that's, I think, pretty standard. However, it's not specified that if a superintendent would find another job, that then the payment would stop. It does specify that the payment stops for the medical, but it doesn't specify that the payment stops for the salaries. And of course, the contract is already, I mean, that has been negotiated before, so I don't think that's now the right moment to discuss that. But I think going forward, in the future, I think it's important to make sure that if a superintendent gets a new position, he should not maintain to be paid double effectively. Thank you.
Could I have a motion in a second, please?
I'd like to move for the process of discussion.
Second.
Second, okay.
I had thought that we had, the last comment made by Mr. Noop had to do with that if the superintendent for no cause has another job, he's not being paid both by us and by them. And I thought that was part of the process. So I'm looking for it, termination clause.
I believe this is the same verbiage that we had last year for his contract.
Yeah, I thought that that was covered.
Well, I believe what's there is there.
I want to look and see where it is before I vote on it, if I might. So what line is it? Termination without cause.
I may be able to add some clarification if it's helpful.
Yeah.
The termination,
Go ahead.
termination without cause and termination for cause are both board action. It's a board decision and it's initiated by the board. So let's say hypothetically I accept a job somewhere else, that would be a resignation, which would cease my payments, which would cease any pay coming from the district going forward. So if I were to resign and take another position, that automatically ceases this contract. The termination without cause is in the scenario where a new board's elected, new majority changes, they don't have cause to terminate, then they would pay 12 months in that scenario. That's the scenario that this would apply
But
to.
they're equal to the difference between the salary at the rate, in effect, during the last month of service and the amount he earns from any other employee.
Right.
So the difference is being paid by the school district.
Yes.
Not the full salary.
Yes, it's
So
termination without cause.
If you were to be terminated without cause and you were to make $100,000 less, we would make up the $100,000.
Yes.
Correct. So it is not a full salary.
It may not be 12 months, whatever is less. there's a
Whatever's
clause
left,
there.
whatever's left in the
Right,
contract.
right.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
The lesser of those, the lesser of those
Correct,
two numbers.
correct. I had thought that's what it was. And I wanted to make sure that it was there versus that. The other point made in terms of the section, it has to do with the salary increase by mutual consent. That is our decision.
I asked the attorney about the comment Ms. Parks made, and it's clear enough that this is for 1 year. It's not two different increases.
It's not an automatic increase. It's something that we make a decision, a conscious decision to increase.
Right.
So it's not a matter of automatically going into the paycheck until we have made that decision to increase it.
Right, that's
Correct.
true. That's true too. But I mean, the comment that was made earlier, I checked with our attorney, and it's clear enough when we say this reflects a 1.56% increase in base salary plus a one-time bonus of 2% for the 2017-2018 school year, that makes it clear that it's for 1 year.
Correct. So I move to accept.
Mr. Rodriguez wants to speak.
Yeah, on section B, I am not in agreement with the second sentence in that. I think that part of the negotiating and
Which section is it?
2B.
2B. The fact that this has taken so long is basically the board's fault, in my opinion. We're supposed to, to treat our employees, and the only employee we have is superintendent, with courtesy, and I think that we have an obligation to do the superintendent evaluation and do it quickly. So, and that's on us. But the second sentence, in my opinion, doesn't need to be there because I disagree with comments made as far as the NTA and CSEA negotiate for NUMA. In my years of being on the board, it's actually the other way around. Okay. There's been a lot of years where NUMA has come to us and wanted to settle when it comes time to settling, and we've always told NUMA that we want to make sure that we take care of our teachers first and classified in the same sentence, and before we even talk about increasing NUMA or the superintendent. Now, if the board decides to give the superintendent the same increase, we have the right to do that, and we also have a right to not give him any increase at all, give him more, as Mr. Numa stated. So, so to state that Numa and it piggybacks on negotiations is, in my opinion, not a correct statement. In my years of being on the board, and the board has past practices has been very diligent in stating that we want to make sure that, you know, classified and NTA is taken care of first before we even talk to NUMA. And it just happens that a lot of times NUMA accepts the whatever the increase that was given to the units, because NUMA is not a negotiating piece. NUMA are, you know, they're employees that are on a one-year contract, basically. So, but the second part of that sentence, and I know it says may, and the attorney said that, I really don't think that we need to put that in there. I think the fact that everybody knows that when the superintendent evaluation is done and you talk salary and contract, that it's up to the board to decide what they're going to do. To have something in there that even talks about it being part of increases, it's just, in my opinion, it just doesn't meet, my opinion, doesn't need to be there. And I read it. We give the superintendent an increase if we decide that we're going to do that, and we give him another year if we decide we're going to do that. It shouldn't matter what we have, you know, done with NTA and CSEA. Now, again, in past history, we've never, in my opinion, that I can remember, given the NUMA or the superintendent more than we've given our bargaining units. But so that's how I stand on that. Okay. So I don't want to see that. I'd like to have that sentence taken out completely.
If I may?
Yeah.
Point of order, if we're going to discuss that, I recommend we go back into executive session, because we're hinging on negotiating in public.
Right. Okay. Understand. Okay. And it'd be better anyway, because then we'll have the other board members.
No,
Yes,
I mean now,
Ms. Crocker.
right now.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Crocker? I think that in practical terms, being there or not being there doesn't make any difference. And I think we have held this off too long. I think we are talking about the same thing. The board has the right to change salary. And so this does not limit our right to change the salary. It does not require us to give him that. And I would like to see it taken care of this evening. I think we've waited long enough.
I agree. I would hope that we can get 3 votes and put this behind us. And this is a contract that can be revisited next year.
I do believe if we go to exec briefly, I can clarify some things.
Yeah. I
help
think we
Mr.
should,
Rodriguez.
because I can't vote for it like this.
Okay, we're going to recess to closed session.
this contract has been gone back and forth for a long time. And we asked the attorneys to weigh in on it. And that statement that I didn't like was something that the whole board had talked about, and it was something that the attorney had said that we can live with. And it was their advice to have that statement in there. So based on that, I'm ready to vote.
Please vote. Three ayes. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent.
Thank you, guys.
Next, employee organizations, I believe. It looks like Ms. Eustace for CSEA. Thank you for hanging in there with us.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sue Eustace, and some of you know me because I've been around for a few years. I have been president of CSEA in the past. My relationship with the district is about almost 44 years now. So my children went to school here, graduated through all the schools and through high school. I worked here from 1976 through, actually I'm still working for you in adult ed by teaching a community-based program, TICO. So I have been here for 44 years. So I'm really glad to be back. I was not expecting it, but I am glad to be back. The summer usually for classified as a downtime, and most of our employees have gotten a real good rest, and they're ready to come back, and they're excited. The executive board for CSEA has been working through the summer so that we could set up for this next year. Our executive board is going to be meeting tomorrow. We're going to outline our whole year, and we are going with an annual benefit fair again this year, September 15th. So it's where our members can come and see what benefits are offered to them, and that some of them are on top of their benefits they get here from the district, and they're through CSEA. So they're going to have an opportunity to see what is available to them. They also have a chance to do a professional growth classes so that they can take advantage of our contract and get credit for professional growth. We're really looking forward to this next school year. We're really hoping to get our negotiations going, to get through them relatively fast so that we can move on and do the job that we've been hired to do to educate our kids here in Newark. So it's my pleasure that I get to come back and talk to you again. So hopefully this is going to be another really good relationship. My relationship with the district in the past has been relatively pretty good, and I really enjoy working with you, and I'm hoping to have a very successful year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Eustace.
Good to have you back.
Timothy Merritt.
So you have me beat by 40 years. I'm starting my fourth year with the district. So NTA is excited also to be back at school. We were happy to see a lot of you and each other on Monday. NTA sponsored a lunch for all the teachers to get together, and it was a very exciting time to get together and share some memories from the summer. And I'm guessing that you could probably drive by most of the schools tonight, and there's still teachers setting up some rooms because they're really excited to meet their students. So we're looking forward to a great year as well and a great relationship. So, and congratulations, Superintendent Sanchez, for finally getting this nailed down. So.
Thank you. Next, we move on to the consent agenda, personnel items. Item 14.1, appointment of chief business official.
Yay. Sorry, that was out of order.
I'd like to move that we accept.
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote. Three ayes. Superintendent.
Great. We will certainly be reaching out to Kai Wynn. we're excited to have him come back to the area where he's from and move back into town. He does come to us from a district in Southern California, but has deep roots here in the community, and we're looking forward to a long-term commitment by him. And definitely something that struck me in the interview with him is just his ability to be collaborative, and at the end of the interview, he really made you feel like he's somebody you would want to work with and could work with, and I think that's really important. So that's all I had to say, unless you wanted to add anything, Ms. Saavedra. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
14.2, personnel report.
Can I say something before we move on?
Certainly.
Superintendent, when we go through a process of either hiring a new site principal or in this case a CBO, there's a lot of people that are involved in making it happen. So can you share with us a little bit? I know our new HR director was in the middle of all this, and we've electing or hiring a new CBO is very important, especially in what's going on right now with the revenue and lack of revenue. And
certainly, I will have Ms. Saavedra kind of explain the process of how involved it is.
Good evening. Yes, just as you were stating, we had different representatives from the different departments be part of the panel. We had our director of MOT, a representative of CSEA. We have our director of fiscal and services, our budget position manager. We had a teacher representing NTA, director of special projects, our director of IT, our director of special education, and our administrative assistants who were providing feedback in regards to the two members or the two candidates that we were able to interview. I don't have the date, but that we were able to interview last month.
And we had 11 people that actually wanted to come to Newark to be our new CBO, right?
Yes, that's correct. We had a total of 11 applications, from which we selected 4 because they were the most highly qualified. And then out of the 4 candidates, we were able to narrow down to 2, which are the 2 people that were introduced to Executive Cabinet.
Thank you. Thank you much.
Did we have a vote
For personnel,
Did we?
we voted on the
Yeah, we voted
appointment.
already.
We already voted on the personnel report? No.
No.
So next I would,
I move acceptance of the personnel. Oh, I'm sorry, you moved already. I'll second.
okay, please vote. Three ayes, thank you. Next, we move on to the consent agenda. Is there anyone that would like to speak? I believe there is someone that would like to speak to 15.3, Mr. Knoop.
Yes, 15.3. You know, 15.3 is there because of the result of the FICMAT recommendations that every month there will be a balance report so we know how the funds are doing going into the year. And, you know, my question is, why does it say May? Because that's from the prior year, and it's pretty darn useless. And we really need July. So I don't get it. We really need to get accurate reports. Thanks.
I move acceptance of the consent agenda, 15.1 through 15.25.
Please vote.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, second. Mr. Rodriguez, would you please vote? Three ayes, thank you.
Can I say something before we move on? A lot of the items on the consent agenda were individual service agreements. And I just want to publicly thank our special ed department for all the work they do. And as everybody knows, we're underfunded when it comes to the money we get to serve our special needs kids. And so we have a department that works very, very hard to try to minimize the amount of money that we spend, and yet serve the kids and make sure we're in compliant. And I feel that the special ed department does an excellent job, and I want to thank them publicly for what they do. Thank you.
And I would like to also make thank the staff for all the work that goes into bringing together all these documents for the consent agenda. It represents a lot of work, and I read every one of them. Okay, next
I'd like to speak. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think we need a bell.
Well, I think it's probably right.
Well, there's only 3 of us.
That's all right, I'll try.
I know, but I'm not necessarily looking there.
I did some math work, and so there was over $500,000 that was spent for 12 children. And I know that children are very needy and have a great deal of need for it, but it's underlining the fact that we are so underfunded in terms of being able to take care of our children with special needs. And so if you've got anybody you know that's in Sacramento, underline the fact that 12 students are taking $500,000 from our budget that we have, and it's not being close to being reimbursed. So if you have a high special ed population in your school district, which I think we do, it does cut into the amount of money that's available. So that being said, I am not saying these children are not deserving of it. I'm saying that we have to look at how funding is taken care of from the state basis. And that's something that we need to keep on remembering.
Yes.
Every time we talk to somebody who's elected, we need to remember that they need to underline this. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, we move to Board of Education Committee reports, announcements, requests, debrief, and I'd like to speak to item 15.3. I believe that reports need to be timely for us to be able to digest them and understand them and so forth. So if we can get those reports in a more timely manner. Also, I've mentioned this before, but the quarter or the monthly update, these 2 reports, I think, and I know you're probably working on a new way of showing the information, but I don't think it helps to have it in the consent agenda. I think it should be under new business each month, and that it should afford the board a chance to hear where the budget is, where we're saving money, where we're exceeding on expenses, any concerns we have about our ability to spend money, especially as they relate to our supplemental funds, so that the board gets visibility of that each month and has a chance to ask questions and make comments and maybe charts and graphs, something visual that'll help us understand and monitor. It's our duty as a board to monitor our budget, especially since we're facing more cuts and deeper deficits next year. So that's my comment. Thank you. I'll move on to you, Ms. Crocker.
I have nothing more to say. I've opened my mouth a lot this meeting, so I guess I will just let everyone rest.
The beginning of school is Thursday, and I would like to encourage all of us, if we have time, to stop at least one of our schools, and if you want to try to stop to 2 or 3, that would be great. So I'd like to have an idea. Oh, Superintendent, can you cover it on your closing remarks as far as, inviting the board to come to the, beginning of school and stuff like that? And I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Superintendent.
Thank you. First of all, I want to share something I think that we've been working on. Lowell and I talked about bringing some first versions of those progress monitoring reports on September 4th. And we're going to look at, he's brought a few drafts forward that I'm kind of working through. So we'll see something sooner than later about what that's looking like. And I'm hoping to bring something on the 4th to have you begin looking at more formally. The first day of school, I think, is really critical. I do think, I know we've assigned all central office personnel to go see at least one school, and we're bringing something to each site on the first day. I think that really trying to make sure they start off on the right foot is critical. And I think that one of the things I will say is, you know, there's questions about why didn't we do a back to school rally for all employees? And I think we're just trying to keep it business as usual, trying to keep costs low. Many of our people are anxious to get back to the classroom, and the last thing they want to do is come and hear me blab on for an hour. They have stuff to do. They're getting the classrooms ready. They're getting borders looking sharp, and there's a lot to do. And I think that a lot of our teachers have some much needed time off in the summer, and a lot of our staff gets that. And I think we just wanted to keep things moving forward as calmly as possible. And I think that's really important for our kids, so that they have some calm when they walk in, and teachers are ready and hopefully have plenty of caffeine ready to roll and surprise their kids. So I think that's really great. What I would like to propose to the board, instead of just the first day of school, I'd like the board, and maybe this is a future discussion, a board agenda item, is I'd like to start doing some formal site visits with the board to schools and saying, how's it going with your goals? What are you doing? But it'll be structured. It'll be around their goals. And I don't think it has to be like 40 visits, but I think that if we could get to each school for an hour or two sometime during this year and kind of sign up for it. And the reason that it comes back to me is in the survey and some of the feedback we got in my first year was they really wanted to see me and at least one board member out at schools. And we do some of that through natural activities. I think it'd be great for us to maybe have a conversation about how can we structure it so it's enough so that the board has that formal visit and experience, but not so much that we're kind of distracting schools from their business. So that's something I think we should work on. And I'll be bringing some ideas forward to you to consider for that. Char's been with us for a year now. And it's no small feat. I many times describe her job as the only one in the district with 6 bosses. I have 5, she has 6, and I know she's, every day she's trying to learn something new, but I just wanted to recognize her efforts and just getting agendas caught up and keeping us all on track, because every one of those 6 that I mentioned has a whole different personality, and she's kind of the sweetness that keeps the nuts together. And I think that...
Who are you calling nuts?
Me, myself, mostly. But I think that I just wanted to take a minute and just say thank you to Char, because I think that, you know, she has really done a good job in stepping in and really has that kind of how do we help schools kind of attitude, customer service component that we all need. And I also think that it's just good to have someone in there that you know if you call them, they're going to follow up. And, you know.
Loves kids.
She helps me grow.
I agree with you 100%.
But thank you, Char.
Superintendent. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Char. You've been great support for the board. Thank you.
And I think the last thing I want to talk about is my contract. And what I would say is I'm very proud of the work we've done in Newark Unified. And I'm proud of some very specific things. I'm mostly proud of all things, we may disagree, we may argue, we may fight, and I mean me and the board and board members, but it's never personal, and we always try to bring it back to kids, and we are a healthy team, and we are strong, because we can fight like a family, if you will. And I hope that's something we never lose. I know that there's always times where we agree or disagree on 1 or 2 issues, but it's not personal. And I think that's really important that I want you to know it's really important to me that that's something that I value. That's something that I value. And I want to remind just anyone watching that we've worked hard to fix a structural deficit, and it's been painful, and it's not been perfect. But we've kind of stabilized it, and we need to stay vigilant, and we are. We've had to increase progress monitoring, and we are. We had to take recommendations from FCMAT, and we are. And guess what? They're coming back to check to see how we're doing. I'm very proud of the work we've done. I'm proud of the work we're going to do. And many people that have done this job will tell you that of all things this job is, one thing that it is very humbling. And I think that maintaining that humility is really important. And I think that when I see how much work is yet to be done in A through G, how much is yet to be done with graduation rate, how much work is yet to be done with re-engaging kids who are overage and under credit, how much work is to be done with math. I think we've identified some of the right elements that we need to really drill down on, and we are, but I think that the speed of change in this continuous improvement model is more of the hedgehog theory. We got to keep just moving forward little by little. It's not going to happen super fast, as fast as we want it to. But you know what? There's a lot of people committed, and I think that's what I would say kind of in closing, is that there's a lot of people in Newark that may have opinions or not like things, or people that love things, but I've not met anyone in Newark that doesn't want the district to be successful. And those ingredients are here. And I think that as I look at Newark as a community, I feel that we're on the cusp of breaking into a whole new day that's going to be really powerful and beautiful. Think about it. For the first time in about 8 to 10 years, we're starting to increase enrollment. That's huge. I was talking to staff the other day, and it's like they can't even remember the last time they had some money to do something simple. Like, I want to feed my teachers today after school because it's been a rough week, and we've had a spike of discipline, and it's been a full moon all day, every day all this week. So I think that one of the things we don't do as educators enough is stop and be thankful for what we have and be thankful for what we've done. And I had asked, and I mean it, when I talk to the teachers and talk to the principals, we have to do a better job of talking about what's going right in our district, not only for our own sake and our enrollment, but for our own well-being as humans, because this is hard work. Every time you say you're in public education at some corporate dinner table, people in our country, I think, don't value what it takes to be a teacher as much as they should, or what it takes to work in a public school system. It's pretty thankless, and there's never enough hours in the day. But I will tell you, I'm really glad that we have agreement. I'm glad that we are moving forward with the contract. I'm glad there's real clear metrics and direction to me from the board. That really does help me. But I want to thank the board, and I know that the decisions we made sometimes aren't popular, but I feel good that we're moving in the right direction. And of course, there's plenty of room for improvement for me, and I'm happy to acknowledge that. So I'm glad to be here. So
I
thank
wanted
you.
to thank President Thomas because she stepped in and got you going on making sure we caught up and also do the evaluation for this year. And it's very important. It wasn't fair that you had to wait as long as you had to wait. And when we brought you in into an impossible situation, you know, with the deficit, and not only did you come into a different state, and I know you love the Bay Area, and but the fact that you chose us, you could have easily chose somewhere else, and you know that's within reach, and probably make more money, and not have to deal with all the deficit. There are plenty of districts that are actually in growth when you get into the valley and stuff, but yet you chose us, and we appreciate the fact that you've hung in there with us and took us through this difficult process, which nobody else, you know, wanted to do. As Member Thomas has stated, a lot of times, you know, the ball was kept moving forward, and so we finally found someone that was willing to spend the time. And then the people that you have brought in, to me, are second to none. You brought in excellent people to work on your staff, and the kids of Newark are better because of it. And I appreciate the fact that you hung in there with us, and you're going to continue to lead us as we move forward. Thank you.
I think Ray said it really well, and I'd like to add my appreciation to everything you've done this past 2 years. And when I compiled the list for my campaign, I just say, we've done a lot. Thank you, and you've been a great leader.
Looking forward to another year.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, meeting adjourned.
9:15, thank you.